para penduduk Holland-Bukit Timah GRC, saudara-saudari, daripada hati kami mahu mengucap kepada anda, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan dan kawan-kawan sekalian, terima kasih kerana memberikan kami sokongan anda. Marilah kita bersatu membina sebuah daerah Holland-Bukit Timah yang bersemangat dan teguh. Majulah Singapura, olehlah PAP. Residents and friends of Holland-Bukit Timah, politics is about 5 years of service at a time. 5 long years, week in, week out, day in, day out. Politics is not about 9 days of speeches. Politics is about action. It is not about highfalutin ideas. The SDP manifesto, launched very late in the day, is a rushed patchwork of ideas. Loose at its core, unviable in its implementation, dangerous to the residents of Holland-Bukit Timah across the board. There are disconnects within the manifesto, not minor ones, major consequences, dangerous. Did you know that the SDP wants to raise personal income tax to about 30%? I have many private property residents in my ward. They work hard. Many move in to the area because they want to be close to schools. Many of the new condominium dwellers are young families investing in a private property as a nest egg. And SDP wants to raise personal income tax to about 30%. Do you all agree with that? Not by a small margin, friends and fellow residents, but by a fairly large margin. I cannot look my resident in the eye and say that that would be for his good and the good of his family and his children. I cannot do that. I will not do that. But there is a disconnect with wanting to raise more taxes, higher income tax, supposedly to help the poorer. And let me display this disconnect. The SDP wants to increase the tax of the higher wage earners, which will seriously affect the financial planning of this group of my residents. But in the same breath, it also seeks to detrimentally affect the jobs of my blue-collar worker friends and residents who live in the HDB heartlands, and they want to do so by dismantling Singapore's manufacturing sector. Gifted people, a firm handshake gifted with their hands. My blue-collar friends and residents who live in the heartlands in Ulu Pandan. In fact, I have a very good friend who is a welder. He uses his hands with great skill and great aptitude. How, I ask you, how can he be transferred overnight into the services sector? We are talking about 500,000 jobs, friends and residents, 500,000 jobs. And wives and children. Part of the remainder that does not go to services SDP wants to throw out to Malaysia and Indonesia. Do you think that's right? Nor do I. And I cannot, in my heart of hearts, look into my Ghim Moh residents' eyes, my Farrer residents' eyes, my Sunset Way residents' eyes, and say, you have to look for a job in Malaysia or Indonesia. I cannot do that. I will not do that. Politics, dear friends, is about service. It is about applying heart and mind together to assess, to understand, to deliberate what is in the best interests of our residents and Singaporeans. I consider it a sacred duty. The SDP, however, has given you a rushed patchwork for a manifesto. Loose at its core, unviable in its implementation, dangerous to the residents of Holland-Bukit Timah across the board. Service, friends, is about consistency and being trustworthy and reliable, especially in moments of crises. The last 5 years, believe me, have not been easy. The MPs, my fellow MPs in this team, have been on the front line, witnessing, dealing, understanding, responding to the worst global financial crisis the world has seen since the Great Depression. It's no easy feat. MPS cases on the rise, trying to understand how to job match a graduate who has lost his job, opening up civil service jobs, asking them, continue, press on. May have to take a pay cut, but we'll be there. We'll be there to support you. But not only at the ground, friends, not only at the ground. Using the intellect, the mind, to debate in Parliament the need for jobs credit, the need for a lifeblood of credit lines so banks would start lending again, our companies could start employing, goods to get exported from Singapore, and trade just gets on. And we debated that. We used our reserves, we passed the two-thirds constitutional mandate in Parliament, and we saw Singaporeans through. We had to convince companies to keep jobs for Singaporeans. Where jobs are lost, get new jobs. What were we doing? We were on the ground. We were not giving speech, rhetoric, highfalutin ideas. No. We were banding together and overcoming one of the greatest economic obstacles the globe has seen and Singapore has seen. Politics is about 5 years of service, friends. It's not about 9 nights of speeches. We saw our residents through the crisis. And I would like to give you 2 personal stories, true to its core, that show the diligence of the Singapore spirit, the honesty of our people, and the willingness as a country, as a citizenry, to overcome the odds. Mr. Maniam lost his job. I did a house-to-house visit, got to know him. He came to see me at Meet the People session. Mr. De Souza, I don't want a handout, get me a job. So I will. Before you get me a job, I need to be retrained. I need to be retrained as a security guard so I can upskill myself, get more money. We'll be there for you, Mr. Maniam. So we managed to secure job training for him. He upgraded himself, found it difficult, so we supplemented him. We tied him over with some community care. He got his security job, increased his salary, gets CPF, gets workfare. Now he's on his feet. I went to Henry Park, where his son goes to school. He has only one son. That year, because his father had a job, his son topped his class. That's progress. That's commitment. That's success. I recently visited again his home. I said, Mr. Maniam, are you all right? Can we offer you some vouchers? No. Give it to somebody who was like me, who needs it more. That's what we do on the ground, friends. We don't give speeches. We help, we assist, we move community forward for the greater good of our country and countrymen. Another old lady, hospital cleaner, had a dispute with the family, got kicked out of our own HDB flat, which she paid for. Child rented out the flat, collected the rent for herself. I said, no, this won't do. This is injustice. So she came, we saw, we helped. And now she's getting at least a portion of the rent. She's made amends with her 2 daughters. They're all living together. I met her recently. She's a cleaner. She's happy in Gimo. She's part of our community. She knows that we can be relied on. I met her recently. She said, if I had money, I would donate $5,000 to needy families in Gimo. That is what spurs us on to continue to serve you from our hearts, our minds, and our emotions. Being there for residents, heart to heart. I learned that on the hockey pitch playing for your country, Singapore, our country, at international meets around the world. Singapore could be 1-0 down, 2-0 down, but that multiracial team of Singaporean players looks at that scoreboard and says, that's not right, Singapore should be winning. We come together at halftime, overcome the odds, and win for our country. I learned that as a soldier in the SAF, as a cadet in cadet school, looking at my platoon mate or him looking at me. We're in a ditch, we're down, here's my hand. Get up, run on. That's what we're about. That's what our team, our PAP team is about. Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Mr. Liang Eng Hua, Ms. Sim Ann, myself, and Dr. Teo Ho Pin. Cut out all the rhetoric. Look into our hearts, look around you, look into our minds, and ask yourself, is politics about talk, fancy speeches, clappers and hype? No. It is about service. Choose the team. Red, white, and blue. We'll see you through. Majulah Singapore! Majulah PAP! Ondilah PAP! Terima kasih.